Maddie lived in Osceola County, but attended school in Orange County, which I thought was a bit strange. I think there's a good possibility she could have been using somebody else's address. So I'm not sure if there was a breakdown in the notification to the mother, since she was attending school possibly using a different address. She lived in another county. Like, why wasn't the mother notified that her daughter wasn't in school? And that could be an issue. There's a lot to look at, but back to the original point is you have to lock these people into stories immediately, a detailed story.
Mm-hmm. The Angel Rock with Laura Lee Potvin, the cousin of the Islanders ice hockey player Dennis Potvin. If this mother was a victim of this monster, David, but was covering for him, what could she potentially be charged with if it turns out to be that?
Well, I mean, she could be charged with murder, accessory to murder, accessory after the fact, conspiracy. I think Tim is a 2 or more, it requires a conspiracy, right? So I mean, it could be a number of crimes. Whether or not she was a victim of the defendant really has no bearing in the jury instructions. That could mitigate a sentence later, but in terms of the elements of the crime and the jury structures that are provided in Florida, that doesn't. The state of mind doesn't have much of an impact on that, and except for intent, perhaps.
I'm going to try to bring. Hey, Daryl, are you hearing us now? Still no go. Daryl's in the background. COE. I feel bad. The guy I can see him in the whatever, the waiting room on this software system, and I don't want him. COE. Let him loose if you can't get. I don't want him to sit there the whole time if you can't get connected. So, but I've got a show to handle here. So one of the things we did find out was initially the investigators found evidence that Stephan Sterns was abusing Madeline Soto when she was 12, but then they got a little deeper into the weeds and found out it went back even further, from before she was 12 years old. Tim Jansen, from a criminal perspective, from a legal perspective, what can investigators do to sort of, and they use the word trump up charges, but are they kind of casting a wide net now? So when they bring this to the state attorney's office, they've got more to work with. What's going on here?
Well, you have a lot of different areas they can look at. I think they said the little girl's phone was at home. She didn't take it with her. Mm-hmm. So they'll do a forensic download of her phone. They'll try to get the father's phone, try to get the mother's phone. They'll canvass the school if she had friends, see if she talked to any of her friends about it. And I think I think it's true. You do have kids that sometimes don't want their parents to drop them off at school. They don't want to be seen being driven, not because of the car, but because you're 13, you're just not a little kid anymore. So I can understand that. Drop me off a block away. But this whole, the mom wasn't telling the truth. And that's the most important part for the police, is to get interviews quickly. And they know that. And as a defense lawyer, I know that. So I'm not letting my clients go in and make a statement, because you don't know what the investigation is. And sometimes people say things and they say dumb things, and they sometimes make themselves more of a suspect than they are. But for the most part, the police are pretty savvy. They know what the crime scene is. They know what they're trying. Sometimes they're not only trying to catch people, but they're trying to get rid of people, because they're going to be inundated with calls, tips, and they need to focus and gather evidence right away before it's gone or witnesses' memory's gone. So I normally do not allow my clients to talk without me getting a better understanding, and I'll call investigators and ask them and see what information I can get. And they're not giving me much information, right? But they want him to come in. So we have this little dance routine. But there are times I do go in. My client goes in, and it usually helps both sides, because they can get their questions and go on to the next suspect. And I'm not sure I answered your question. I went off on a tangent.
No, I think you did. But Tim, Another question for you. Does this mom, Jennifer Soto, need an attorney yesterday? What is she waiting for here?
She does. And it's really bad that people think just because she gets a lawyer, she must have done something wrong. But there are some things, say, like if she did know he was molesting the child, there is no defense for her that she was being molested also. That husband goes away, she could take him down to the police station right away. You have an obligation to protect that child. And if you know it's going on and you allow it to go on, you're a co-conspirator, right? And she could be charged with co-conspirator with capital sexual battery. If she knew he was going to kill him, co-conspirator of first-degree murder.
Darby, it does seem like this guy, Stephan Sterns, the boyfriend of the mother, was videotaping and taking pictures. Are there different levels to these offenders? I mean, Tim talked about capital sexual assault. This seems to be one of the worst cases. But what about this fact that he was ratcheting it up and literally videotaping and filming her?
I mean, that's a pretty pathological level, but I really hate to say that any human being that is a pedophile is less, I mean, is in better shape. Like, you know, there's the continuum is pretty short when you are sexually harming a child. It doesn't really matter if you're taking pictures or not. That would kind of go to his power or empowerment. That's added joy, right? Watching it and sort of having his sexual urges satisfied in a way. But I mean, it's very disturbed. I just don't know that it's any more disturbed than doing it in the first place.
That's a great point. And Kimber Miller here says, has a question. By the way, if you have the questions, do the capital triple Qs like you see there, but capital. Darby, what kind of childhood do these monsters typically have? I mean, it doesn't just happen one day, right? Like this has been percolating for years. And before you answer that, there's a comment here, and I haven't confirmed this. Apparently, he had a history. Some of his friends have gone on TV in Orlando. I'm sure this is where they found it. Back as early as 20, he was dating a 14-year-old, according to a friend he knew back then. So, you know, is there kind of you know, an MO of these guys or a background that's kind of cuts across the board that they come from?
There are some similarities. It depends on what they like, but if you go way back, there's somewhere an insecure parental attachment. There's somewhere a ruptured attachment with your the trusting figures in your life, whether it's your parents or you're in a custodial situation. That's where it starts. And it's really begins with a notion of rejection. I don't quite fit in, and how am I going to get my needs met? And one reason you choose younger people is because they can be enamored with you. Certainly a 14-year-old girl dating a 20-year-old, sometimes they think that's kind of like, wow, you know, the older man likes me. And there can be that naivete of younger kids is something that seems really powerful. You've got to remember, they like the unequal power balance here, and that's how it happens. Whereas someone like a rapist would also have an insecure attachment, but they're more violent typically. This is more about meeting one's own needs, sexual needs.
Horrific. Someone here, Nadia, saying that yeah, I'm getting to that right now. COE said that he stabbed someone when he was 14. This is WFTV in Orlando had an exclusive interview with a guy who's now the prime suspect prior to his arrest. And let's take a listen together, and we'll get the feedback from our amazing panel. Here we go.
It's a living nightmare. Day started off like any other, and I just want to wake up and just get hit with waves of the reality just it's setting in. As soon as it got dark last night, we started falling apart because we knew it wasn't going to come to an end. And now we're going on 24 hours and still nothing. Just conflicting reports here and there. People say they see this or that. none of it's conclusive and none of it's helpful. We just want our baby girl back.
Yeah.
Tom, any questions?
Dave Nutting, you're in that interview room. Guys crying, no tears. Again, the whole world is against him right now. But how do you read that soundbite?
I mean, it's interesting how he uses the phrase "we," we, our, we're like he's in it with somebody, and like there's a so knowing what we know now, obviously he's concerned for what the authorities will ultimately find, because he knows that this was a highly disorganized effort to conceal what happened that day. So, I mean, his behavior, I talked to a reporter here also when the mother was being interviewed. He had some odd behavior when he was interviewed. The mother was being interviewed by the Fox affiliate, and how he stood behind her during the interview, slammed a chair down, sat behind her, looked over her shoulder during the interview. Mm-hmm. His behavior was really strange. So yeah, it's I mean, of course we have the benefit of knowing what we know now, right? So it's easy to be an expert now when we look at these interviews. But I do want to kind of circle back, because I was making some notes as we're going through. There is a possibility that there are additional victims out there. This could be part of the sex crimes investigation that the authorities are conducting. He factory reset his phone by accident twice, right? That was a huge alarm bell that went off.
Yeah, David, let me jump in there, because I wanted to ask you about that. This is so Stephan Sterns, the guy you just heard from, on the day that all this happened, he was brought in to the day he was arrested, I think. He tells police that they have permission to look at his phone. They have permission to look at his phone, but he, quote unquote, accidentally did a factory reset. Despite the reset, they were still able to get images off the phone. What are the chances, David, that just that day you happen to do a factory reset? I mean,
nil. I had heard too that it was twice that he factory reset it by accident. So what's nil times zero? What is that's? But he got caught by the cloud, because I use Google Photos, so everything that I take on my picture on my phone goes to the cloud. So, and I can go to my Google Photos and look back for years of photographs. I think it goes back like 7 years or something like that. So when you mentioned that, supposedly this abuse has been going on for a couple of years, obviously he's not speaking about the abuse. He's not been coming out of his cell for court appearances. My highly educated guess is that there is information located on the cloud that is related to this ongoing pattern of abuse, where he was taking pictures or videos, and that was stored in a place that he didn't think to, or didn't have the ability to delete those photographs. So, and he was clearly keeping them as some sort of trophy or something that he could, relive these nightmarish episodes for his personal gratification.
I just want to bring this back up. You can't accidentally reset your phone. You have to answer at least 4 questions to proceed. Thank you, Deb. I'm going to bring this interview, but there's something he said that I just want to hear, and then I'm going to go back to Darby and Tim on this. I'll bring it up a little.
You just get hit with waves of the reality, just it's setting in. As soon as it got dark last night, we started falling apart, because we knew it wasn't going to come to an end.
Darby, that was what caught me. He says, we knew it wasn't going to come to an end. When I am watching that right now, it's like he's feeling sorry for himself, that it's not going to come to an end for him because now he's been caught. Am I reading into that too much?
I don't know that you are. He's not very aware, as David pointed out earlier. There's a lot of inconsistencies. He's kind of all over. He's not very organized and methodical in what he's presented. So I think that, along with he's talking about we, and at dark, we knew and we fell apart at that point. It all kind of comes back to there's something behind that. And, you know, until someone's proven guilty, we don't say that they are, but that kind of dialogue shows there's a detachment from his ability to be talking in a more real way, if that makes sense. Like, we don't, a normal person that is, if it's just your daughter and you're really in an emotional state, you're kind of all over the place. His affect is very flat. He keeps very straightforward. There's a lot of pieces that show us he's trying to hold it together. And so I think you really aren't reading too much into it.